BudgIT, a policy advocacy group, has carved a niche for itself by simplifying the public finance system of government in a way that can be interpreted and analyzed. Marking 5 years of its existence, it hosted a special symposium discussing data, the unit of civic engagement and accountability. Mr. Seun Onigbinde, lead partner and co-founder of BudgIT, gave a brief insight into the journey of the startup.
Before I started BudgIT, I've had my fingers burnt. A friend of mine called Sukomi Agumeji is in the US today. We decided to do things around climate change, accountability when it comes to the environment. And we tried all we could, walking the streets of Victoria and looking for companies, looking for people who could support us. Then I met a guy called Tobi Oluwatola, he's also not in this country anymore, and he said, people are hungry in this country. People are really, really hungry. But you have a new cause, and your only single cause is climate change. Then I thought about it again. I can do something different. So from that point, I've been asking myself, what can I do in governance? And when this idea came, I was just sitting on my laptop asking myself, budget, make it simple. And when we came with the website, we came to see up, and we said, this is what we are. Person said, this is what you have. This is good already. I said, no, this cannot be good already. So you should launch, because this is good already. And so we launched BudgIT website. We had a press conference on this day where we formally put the website public. And that journey has taken a whole lot from me, and also given a whole lot to me, I have to acknowledge. I have to be very modest. It's given a whole lot to me beyond my own imagination, in terms of recognition. You know, the day Bill Gates mentioned my name, I was on a flight to Dubai, and when I landed and I saw the mentions, and I saw I like, God, I didn't imagine this. You know, I was just that cubicle guy with friends that felt I wanted to do something different. And for 5 years, we've been grinding it, not because we've solved all the problems, not because we've resolved all the issues, not because we've stopped corruption in its stride, not just because we have opened up all the government accounts, not because we have communicated to every Nigerian, but because we just tried. And it's just still a work in progress. And this is just a challenge to everyone here. You know, I wanted to make a difference. I didn't understand entrepreneurship. I just understood that we needed to do something. And now, on the way we are further. So from now, we've grown to a team. When we even started, we couldn't even pay salaries. And I'm happy Tony Elumelu Foundation is here. The time was tough, really tough. And I'm happy Madam Obi is here. And so far, we've raised over 2 million, 2.5, and we're also going another round of like a medium-term fund, almost three times of that now. And it's been an interesting journey so far. People ask us, what do people see in us? You know, the investors, the donors, and everybody, what do they see in us? Just because they feel that we are trying in our own little corners to make a difference. And I'm imploring all of us in our own little corners for Nigeria, for the sake of Nigeria, let's try and make a difference. Thank you very much.
Keynote speaker for the occasion, Dr. Biageli Ezekwesili, commended BudgIT on its role of driving a learning culture in Nigeria.
BudgIT is the expression of that idea that the quality of governance can only be determined by the informed, engaged, active, and unrelenting citizen. The information that BudgIT presents to Nigerians today of everything that needs to be known of public finance is the greatest power that the unit voter, the unit citizen in this country has. It is the express definition of that idea that I have continued to push, that the office of the citizen is in fact the greatest office in the land. So let me conclude, Seun, by saying, you haven't started. A population of 180 million maybe let's still stay with the one that is clearly, slightly verified, which is 170. A population of 170 million people, and BudgIT has reached 1 million through its work, shows that we might be needing how many years if we operated at the pace that we're operating at? That's why we must be in greater hurry. Until the woman in, what's that your village again? Ogbomosho. That's a township. Until the woman in very rural Adamawa can understand what it is that we are saying when we present the factoids of public finance of Adamawa to her, we have not done well enough. Until the face of poverty, which is considered as that young girl of 18 without education in rural Ebonyi State, knows exactly what the Ebonyi State budget ought to do for her in terms of provision of basic services that she needs in order to lift herself out of poverty. We haven't done well enough. Until those mothers that die needlessly in public health centers that have numbers attached to them in the federal budget would stop dying, we haven't done well enough. Transparency for what? Transparency and accountability must be for a purpose. And the purpose of BudgIT must be the improvement in the quality of life of that unit citizen.
Supported by the Co-Creation Hub and the Tony Elumelu Foundation, stakeholders got an insight into the incubation experience of BudgIT.
There are plenty of problems in Nigeria. And like Auntie Obi said, BudgIT is just starting. But you see, BudgIT cannot solve every single one of those problems that you have stated. Nigeria is still hungry for more people. And I'm saying this because you may be in this room. There are lots of other areas in Nigeria where we're desperate for solutions. I always ask the question, how do you eat an elephant? If you open your mouth, it will tear. To eat an elephant, you cut it one piece at a time. BudgIT has picked one piece. How do we get citizens to know how the government spends our money? There are other pieces. And we're still looking for people that can cut those pieces. Because when it's a combination of all the pieces that would actually give us the Nigeria that we're all dreaming of.
How many people know Mr. Tony Elumelu? Maybe the whole room. All right. So he's been quite generous, right? So he gives and he helps and supports. And he would give $200,000, $1 billion naira here, and so on. But when CC Hub came to him in 2012 through the Tony Elumelu Foundation, they were able to demonstrate to him that an investment of $5,000 in 20 entrepreneurs would go a long way. And of course, he gave. What has happened is that BudgIT and two others, Trooper and Recyclers, have demonstrated to him the power in that type of seed. And where I'm calling on to many other people, that as we see many problems, the ideas in our Africans can actually solve those issues. And when we have some faith in these entrepreneurs, they can go so far, farther than we can ever imagine. And then we see the transformation that Africa needs.
Thought leaders speak further on the value of BudgIT to Nigeria's policy space.
For us as CC Hub, our interest is seeing how we can support people to create solutions to real problems in Nigeria. And BudgIT is one of the first organizations that came out of the process that we started. And seeing it still alive 5 years, seeing it strong 5 years, seeing the impact it's making 5 years, for us is a thing of pride.
Well, the very simple way of describing what they do is that providing a supply of data, as you put it, but it is pre-processed data that contextualizes, or at least attempts to contextualize the Nigerian budget. And what it does is, for the very first time, is pushing the emphasis from just the government's own obtuse and opaque way of shielding the citizenry from the financials of this economy, to a way in which now citizens now have access to information that has been processed through a means that is fairly rigorous, with great internal integrity. So decisions that have to be made should now be made on the basis of informed citizenship. So that's basically the work they're doing. But it's much more than that for the next 5 years. We have to now get an informed and engaged citizenship. It's not enough to supply. There has to be effective demand. And that effective demand lies within the purview of Nigerians. Nigerians have to understand that as citizens of this country, that they have rights to make demands on their system, but they also have responsibility to respond to these demands in the furtherance of their own enlightened self-interest. So budget is a major contribution to the evolution of our democracy, I would think.
For Mr. Seun Onibinde, there are greater prospects ahead.
Budget at 5 is exciting, It's also energizing for the future, things that we need to do. We found out that we've listened to feedback today. We also listened to the entire nexus between the units of a society. The citizen matters a lot in accountability. And we need to engineer that. There's no matter how much we're trying to push reforms in the private sector, in the private spaces, until it feels the fixed public space, governance essentially, can get going. And for us, it's always been about data. It's always been about transparency. It's always been how you can use technology and tools to connect to people and get results and get the society to work better. We just want a Nigeria that works better for people. And that's the underlining theme. So I'm happy and I'm hopeful for more 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, times when I also take my leave and do some other things, but I'm just happy that we're gradually building an institution that is central to the tenets of democratic governance in Nigeria.
At a time when Nigeria needs ingenuity, innovation, and creativity in the articulation of complex issues like budget and public finance, BudgIT has demonstrated the possibilities of using data to drive transparency in governance.